To remember, to forget. It can hurt either way. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Episode 4. This one is interesting. It's decently done, but honestly, I think it would have been better if they'd pretty much dropped the B plot. Especially given that they try and make that like the triumphant finish. I'll explain. So the A plot on this is La'an, the doctor, and the captain all heading down onto this planet where Starfleet has been before, but things went very badly last time and they lost a few people. Now, this is a planet that they aren't really able to do much monitoring remotely, and so going down on it and figuring out exactly what's going on is kind of the only way to be fully up to date on what's going on. Now, when they get there, minor spoilers, I guess, going into this, they find that one of the people supposedly killed in action is not dead and has basically become the ruler of the people there and has upgraded their technology further than it should be. But then there's the natural problem with this planet, which is that there is radiation that affects the brain in such a way that a lot of stuff gets forgotten. Like, not core stuff that you do so much it becomes instinctual, like language, motor skills, some core, visceral emotional reactions like fight or flight, that kind of thing. But like who you are, what you do, what you had for breakfast, stuff like that, you forget. And there's this interesting dynamic of a ruling class that remembers and the commoners who, whenever they go to sleep, they forget. They don't even call it sleep. They call it the forgetting. And I found this whole thing really fascinating. Now, like it's a soft science nightmare. The logistics probably don't work, but I don't care because this was a really fascinating and it felt really well thought out because it feels like in many ways the kind of premise that wouldn't have a lot of thought put into it. Like really the only thing that they can't get away with not addressing is why the ruling class doesn't forget. When it seems to be a general radiation area thing on pretty much the whole planet. And they do cover that. So once you've gotten that far, like, I wasn't expecting any more depth. But, like, to find out that almost kind of by necessity that the working class, the ones who forget, have developed a quasi-religion, but just a philosophy that says that forgetting is good. You forget the pain. You forget the loss. You forget the things that would hurt if you remembered. And I like that it's not necessarily a deeply held belief. It is a belief born out of necessity. Because this is their reality. Like, they're going to forget, whether they want to or not. So you might as well come up with a reason to tell yourself that it's a good thing if you're stuck there. And I found the mentalities and the characterization of especially the sort of the guy that we get to know the best, with the people who break the stones. Like, I just found him and his sort of gut level of kind of understanding this isn't actually okay, but also not really having enough surface understanding or memory to really be able to ever put that into words. And he's just, this is how it is. Because for him, it is. It is how it is. And it's not like he's just resigned himself. He doesn't remember that it could be anything else. I found it really fascinating. I found him really well characterized. I found the way in which the memories were fading and what was held on to with the three characters who went down. I thought that was well done. There was a lot of good tension in that. Like the fact that the guy who was in charge was a former member of Starfleet, that was functional. Didn't really matter because this was a guy that we didn't really know. But for the purposes of this story, it didn't really need to be somebody that we knew. And it worked. And like I said, it was really fascinating to just think about that way of approaching and viewing life, of that mindset, and that it was all born out of necessity. The B plot is that apparently the radiation goes so far off planet that the crew of the Enterprise has started forgetting. And honestly, I don't think the episode needed that. I don't think it adds anything. Because I'm not worried that like the ship's gonna crash because the pilot doesn't remember. And that's sort of where they try and make a thing out of it because Erica, the pilot, she had been all excited that she was going to be on the away mission, but then it turns out because of the debris field around the ship, she has to stay because they can't leave it on autopilot, and she needs to be there because she's the best at flying the ship. So they can't spare her to go down. She has to stay up. She's a little bummed. Sort of, and then sort of ending with a note with her on a note of, you know, when something becomes routine and you do it every day, you forget that it's amazing. I fly the ship, and that's incredible. And I do like that. I like that note. I like that end note. I really would have liked if her whole sort of arc and realization around this hadn't been in a B plot that felt redundant to the rest of the episode and was instead either the B plot in something else or was like the main focus of another episode. Because, you know, it was really fascinating watching this happen to the captain, the doctor, the head of security, you know, seeing this happen to them was like, oh, geez. But and then seeing it's also happening to everyone out there was like, oh, well, yeah, but I kind of know the deal. Just seeing it happen to more and more people doesn't actually scale up my concern or the threat. And I think it would have been absolutely fine if they just had the ship not really knowing what was going on. Because like it's all covered in this haze. They can't see, they can't communicate. Like there's no need to make it so like, oh, they can't get in touch with it. Like they couldn't anyway. So I guess the necessity of giving the people still up on the ship something to do just had them go through the same thing. And I don't think it adds anything. Whenever they cut back to the ship, I kind of zoned out a little bit. And it's a situation that, like, if it was the A plot, could have carried an episode, absolutely, as like people like as we watch, you know, Uhura, number one, Nurse Chapel, and these various very essential people start to forget what it is they do. And it's not even badly done. It's decently done. And if it was the main thrust of the episode and like the B plot was, I don't know, you don't need a B plot if you're going to have that be the main thrust of your episode. You could have really done that. But because the characters in both the A and B plot are literally going through the exact same thing, just in slightly different circumstances, where one group of people are still in a place that is like home base and the other people are out of their element, but for their purposes, they don't remember either way. So it just felt really redundant. Which, again, it's a shame because the stuff on the ship isn't even badly done. And like I said, the final note for Erica and piloting like was great. I loved that. That was terrific. But like I still zoned out a bit with the stuff on the ship. It's doubling up on everybody going through the exact same thing, I think was a misstep. I think ultimately, if I were in charge of this show, but if I were in charge of the show, I think the one that, because obviously you can't do like the exact same memory loss on a planet and memory loss on a ship, like two different episodes in the same season. You're doing the same thing again, and cramming them into the same episode didn't really work. At least I don't think it did. I think ultimately, as much as I liked the stuff on the planet, I think if it had been the primary focus, if not the entirety of what the show was, I think keeping it with what was going on the ship would have been the stronger thing to do and ditch the planet. As interesting as I found the planet, as it is splitting the time, oddly, I think the planet stuff is stronger if you are splitting it like this. But I think what would have been even stronger than that would have been consolidating it all to just having been on the ship. I don't know if that made any sense. And I don't usually do this kind of here's how I would have done it better thing, For some reason, my brain just decided to indulge that notion this time. But in any case, like, it's still good. Just, not quite. Still good, though. Still like this show. What'd you think of this one, if you remember it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out with that, you can still check out the other stuff I do down in the description and take a look at any of that. Don't worry too much about it, though. I'm clearly not, because I can't even talk correctly. So we take a relaxed attitude around here. Just come on back next time you need a break. And now my thanks to my Patreon supporters that make this possible, including Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Ruth, Oliver B., Solitary Pictures, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Jen, T. Love, Auntie Kate 808, Bernabe Likes the Poodle, Robin Powell, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Dave Hall, Shayla Gourlay, and Rosalind Bennett. You can get I get all the names right and then I can't talk. If you want to hear me stumble over my tongue after saying your name, it's in the rewards here on the Patreon.